Good day to you. This is Daniel Webster with ArcLight Laser Labs. I'm making this video to show you the ArcLight way of engraving basically anything. Today I'm going to go over firearms and how I make mine. This is the ArcLight Labs method of doing it. There may be many other different ways, but this is how I've taught myself to do it, and this is how I would teach you using the ArcLab method. So to start, you want to take photos as perpendicular and straight overlooking the workpiece as possible. You want to make a template to go around all the areas to outline. This will be used for framing, aligning, and sizing your workpiece. I do have this template pre-made, but I will show you essentially what you will do is go to the pen tool. You can also press P on your keyboard, and you will outline the areas that you want to engrave. As you will see, the solid form of the block will semi-lock. You click and drag, you'll get a curve. It will semi-block what you're trying to trace. I do recommend going to Properties and turning the opacity down to make it see-through. If you hit Alt while using your scroll wheel, you can zoom in. You just want to angle around all the areas that you don't want the laser to go beyond. I do recommend doing an offset after you do this. That will give you an even better area as to not accidentally engrave a vital part of whatever your workpiece is. So I can hold, click, and you can drag over to the ellipses. If you just click, you can hold the shape. You hold Shift, it makes a perfect circle. You hold Alt and Shift at the same time. It will go from the inside of the circle, which is what you're looking for. Hit Control, click, Shift, and again, turn the opacity down. You can pull and make sure your alignment is correct. So in my other videos, if you've seen these, you've seen me use the Pathfinder tools. I'm going to make sure your opacity is all the way back up. I recommend changing the shape of any interior parts, any color. Change those. You can hold Shift to select multiple things, or you can just highlight. That will select the picture, so make sure to hit Shift and deselect the picture. You always have brackets around what you're selecting. Turn the opacity back up. Pathfinder. This will be a trim. Click off. These are grouped together now after they've been trimmed. You hit Control Shift G. That will ungroup, or you can right click, go to Group or Ungroup. Then you can get rid of the extra. So now you have your trim desired safe area. You can see I did do it to all the areas of this firearm, and I am building a library of guns. Today I'm doing the P365 XL. I have on the laser already the SAS, which I had already done, as you can see in the laser cam. So the next thing you want to do, I recommend doing an offset to show your work areas. In my particular engravings, I do like having it go onto the area to show that it is engraved, but it kind of gives you a little buffer zone or a safe area. My designs, I do my designs mostly by hand. I recommend, there's many bundles you can get, art you can get, but I use a set of modular scrolls that I have made available on my Discord and on my files that you can access via my Patreon for $30 a month. I'll show that at the end and give you location on where you can find those. But I make my scrolling by piecing together, and it is a particular form of strategy on how you want to do your art. Most of these can be added onto each other. There's kind of a technique that goes with engraving and scroll work. Generally, you start from a bigger size and work your way down to smaller. You alternate direction, and you're just kind of looking to follow the flow that you want your art to follow the path. That you see in general scroll work. So with that, you can build on and on and on with these. You can, on the gun on the video, you can see I have on the sides ridges where it kind of drapes over with these little leaflets. Be careful whenever you're going around. You can kind of design your way into a corner where you can't really get back out, making it look nice. So I do recommend just kind of planning out your designs and playing around and seeing what looks good. Being able to branch out in the desired path is always what you want. You don't want it too cluttered. You don't want to barricade yourself in a corner. This is probably the most time consuming. I spent the better part of today making this design. I do put these little boxes in my design for alignment and placement through the laser. I found that this is the easiest way when you break apart your design into sections to align it properly. I know you can do the layering, but whenever you separate it and do the tricks that I'm going to be showing you, it is best to have some sort of reference shape that you can align to. So this is the design that I'm going to be doing in this video, and it consists of the blue will be the deep engraved area. I will not be using this light blue. This will be my alignment and my safe zone. As you can see, each of these can be highlighted and moved separately. They're not conjoined. This is what happens during the art making process. You will join them and merge them through the Pathfinder options to make them a single path. If you have all these layers and these overlapping lines that are kind of hidden within this, the laser will engrave those, but once you merge them, then it will become one shape and they will be deleted as they would be any kind of overlaps. So I recommend making your design go around the safe zone. As you can see, mine goes onto the safe outline, but this does add like a little bit of an accent showing the breaking the bounds almost. So it's something I like to do, and in my opinion, it looks good. I do recommend, if you're uncomfortable with it, to stay within the light blue area, and you'll be good as gold. So one thing you want to watch out for is people like to use black and white. As you can see, a lot of this is black on here. People use black and white for their templates, as you can see in my template library. You want to have unique color. Use unique colors because there's a feature in Adobe Illustrator. The Y key is the magic wand, and it lets you select just one color individually. Whenever you have a black border and a black outline for your scroll work, then whenever you go to pick just this to separate, it's going to pick anything else that is white as well. I do oftentimes have a working tab open that just shows where I can do my selecting and my trim tricks, just to pull this design away from the other part of the design that might share a color while I'm working on it. I did work up 5 different variations today for this design and ultimately decided on this one. But we'll get into that. With that little square, I do have them stacked. So one of these equals 5 to 7 of these. You can just move them out, but that allows you to pick your color and drag that. Another portion of this I want to show you is my particular trim trick. It's a cookie cutter kind of method where you clone whatever you're doing, but it also gets rid of any kind of overlaps that you might have in hidden lines. This, from what I've seen, has been 99% effective in removing hidden lines in your art. One thing I do want to show you is if you look closely, these look identical. One of these, the brown part has been offset a tiny hair, and I'll show you what happens if you don't do that. They may look alike, but you might have these little hairline colors bleeding through the process of making it. Maybe click dragged a little bit when you shouldn't have. As long as they're small, and I'll show you how to spot those. You can remove those by offsetting this a minuscule amount. As you can see, I've done it to this one, and that same spot has been covered. I haven't merged it yet, so you can see the outline of where I've offset, and that allows it to cover any of those hairline coverings that you may have. So I'll copy this. Make sure I can get it back. And I'll show you how to kind of separate these layers into a form that the laser is looking for. So if you press Y, you can pick just the color, pick one of the scrolling colors. I recommend clicking the squares that you made and dragging those off. So as you can see, moving this back might be difficult trying to align it, but if you grab these and you can line them back up on the square, it'll fit back together. That's why I use these little squares. So again, for the yellow, press Y or the magic wand tool. Right here is what it looks like. You can select another color. Again, make sure to grab your placement squares. And if you don't have the offset, what'll happen is you'll get these hairline markings that you will see in your design when you're finished. So these ones, you couldn't see them until you moved it. Now they're there. These will show up as a path for engraving. So even if it's not there, if I was to engrave this, there are invisible lines in here. And the easiest way to get rid of those is to use a cookie cutter to clone it. And that will fill any of the non-physical spaces. So if you pull your scrolling outline and you're scrolling what I call highlight out, and you see this, you can get rid of that by doing a small, minuscule, basically offset the thickness of this line. So I'll show you that. Here's the one that I did earlier where I offset. Now what I want to do is highlight the whole thing. Go here to Pathfinder. I want to merge it. And that may take a second. And then the next step will be to actually trim it. Once you do these Pathfinder options, it will group them together, which is why you want to either hit Control-Shift-G to ungroup or right-click and ungroup. I do recommend doing the Y again. Click your highlight. These will be gone because you did highlight those as well. So what you do is select all three of these. I would group those together, copy those, paste, 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 paste. So there are 5 layers of these. Highlight all of them. Hold Shift, click the other one. If you click again, you'll get a bold line on the ones that were the original. This is for alignment. You go to Properties and hit Align and Align. Now they are stacked to the bold one where you originally had them. So I'm going to hit Y again. I'll select the highlight of the scroll. Hold Shift. That is still selected together. So sometimes this thing does crash. If you do have a crash, this computer particularly has been doing that to me. Save often, but I will go ahead and show you. Once you have these layers sectioned off, you will use I use personally a flash drive, save them on, pull them over to my laser, and I will show you how, once you get completed, to get those back on to the laser and get started with the laser. So as you can see, I have my gun that I've already done. I've gotten praise for this. I like how it looked. I got some depth on the side, nice design, but I have another one to do now. So what we're going to do, definitely take your cap off. Number 1, turn your galvo on, your laser on. You want to focus in to your workpiece so the 2 dots meet and they are parallel to the laser dot. So I do recommend getting a bubble level. You put that on your laser head, you can see where your level point is, and you want that to match your workpiece. So now that that is level, my workspace has been aligned and added to the workpiece, we can go ahead and import. So if you go to File, go to Import Vector File. I always save mine as easy at the end. That way I know it's EasyCAD ready, or whatever software you're using. If it doesn't appear, probably off center. If you hit this pull to origin, it'll pull your workpiece open. So as you can see, there's a lot of lines to go through. So what I want to do is pull that over to the side. And it is grouped as one single vector file. What you want to do is ungroup the whole thing. Ungroup, ungroup until you can't anymore. Ungroup. As long as you see groups here on the side, you need to hit ungroup. This may buffer down your computer a good bit, but it should pick back up. While we're waiting on that, what you're looking for, with this, continue where we left off. You just want to pull all your shapes away from the actual outline. Hit Y. Select all your squares. Move that down. So now essentially you have your deep engrave, your outline, the buffer area. You can use this as like a highlight. I prefer not to have a highlight on my borders. So this one, for what I'm doing, would not be used. So say you don't want the deep engraving, you just want to do a surface engraving, then this is what you would need. The highlight and the scroll, but you would need an outline as well. So you want to take a whole portion of your design, pull that in, back here to Pathfinder, just hit merge. And then you would hit unite. And that'll give you a solid block form of your outline. You will use this particular one for aligning and moving your pieces underneath the laser to where they would be engraved, sizing your project, using that with the F1 red dot highlighter to get it nice and level. So once you have all your layers, what you want to do is, because there might be hidden lines in here, this is what I call the trim trick. It's a cookie cutter. I'm essentially cloning what my original is. I will copy that. V is the selection tool. Control C, Control V, copy. I'll make one of these white. And I'll bring everything to the front. And to the front. And that allows me to put that on top of this other. I'll select the whole thing. And what I'm doing now is cutting this through using the trim. Any non-solid lines would be taken out as they are overlay. I press Y for the magic wand again. Select the white. Now I have an inverted copy of my design for my cookie cutter. I will hold Control to let me just select that portion since it's grouped with the other. If I select all this and cut that again to that trim, then I have just stamped out my design that is inverted into the black and have essentially cloned my design. So I want to get rid of that. Any excess lines on the outside, hit Control, delete those. So these are grouped together again. So I want to ungroup those. And then now that these are ungrouped, we want to make sure that these are all together. Any breaks need to be added together. So we need to highlight each piece, Control G, which is group, Control G, group. We want to deselect the square, hold Shift and click. And we group each section. Group, ungroup, group, group. These are solid pieces, so you don't have to group these. So I do recommend color coding how you have been. So this would be the brown. This would be yellow. This would be the pink. And this would be EasyCAD ready to go ahead and do. So if you hit File, Save As, save it to your desired location. I do recommend putting EZ at the end, saving it. You want to go to Version. EasyCAD likes the Illustrator 8 format, so click that one, and when you hit OK, it will be saved. And then you can load it into your laser, bring it up as I just showed you with Import Vector. And then you'll have your file and art ready to go. I do want to mention stacking and layering is important, especially when making your design. If I was to try and add a new piece to whatever I'm doing, it will be on top if you paste it in. And if you don't want it on top, then what you need to do is move it to the back. So oftentimes you get inconsistent lines, but whenever you move something to the back, will move it all the way to the back. I recommend just moving the things that you need to the front. So if you click this, move to the front, just be aware that it may mess up something else. One thing you can do, again, with the Shift key, you can deselect what you don't need. If I highlight all that, I've selected all these other pieces that need to be on top. Otherwise, you'll hit a chain where you have to move this one and then move this one. And then the next, and oftentimes you can get them all in one go. You highlight, hold Shift to deselect the image. So deselect the image, deselect your foreground and your outline. And now these are selected. Right click brings just those to the front. Or you can send it backwards, hitting Control and the left bracket until it is behind what you need. Bring this to the front. And also the other version, bring this to the back, and this, Shift, and this to the back. Whatever lets you get it to where it needs to be for your cohesive design. So now we're done with the laser. We have our file. It's ready to go into Adobe Illustrator, being saved as AI8. And we have it either on that computer or on a flash drive. Import it in. And then we start on the lasering aspect of this. I'm just moving this to get it in sight. So if we highlight everything, now all curves only. So what we're looking to do now is to group these by section. So there may be an easier way to do this, but I have not found one that is as accurate in the long run as this. Once you have these pieces grouped, it'll be far more manageable. And I do recommend saving often, especially when you're working on the laser. Once you have something aligned, you're ready to push start and go. Make sure you have it centered and saved. If anything goes wrong, if it's centered and saved, then you can open it right back up and continue where you left off. I've almost messed up many a project, having to realign it because I wasn't saving before firing the laser. Now I do it every single time. I'm just going through, we're grouping these. If you're ever curious on if the laser is bound up, if it's lagging or not responding, the way to tell is if your ruler isn't following your cursor. Once we get all these grouped, we shouldn't have any curves aside from the outlines. So now we have all groups. I'll go ahead, save. This will be 365 XL. So the next portion of this is aligning to your workpiece. I recommend making sure your workpiece is centered where you see that red dot. Then next, you want to check for alignment. So one thing you want to be aware of whenever you are aligning, your piece should fit within these bounds. If not, you can shrink it down. But if you shrink one piece, and this is very important, you must not just shrink one piece. Control Z to undo. Anytime you're sizing, you want to select everything all at once and resize all together. That way, you're not having to resize them all once you get the first piece. The rest should be to the correct size. So I'm just trying to fit within the bounds of my workspace. I'm holding Shift, which brings it in from the center. If I just do this, then it will move from this corner or whatever corner I'm selecting. The Shift does from center. Center that again. See that I'm within my bounds. I'll hit F1. And you can see mine is oriented perpendicular. My laser is facing, if you hit Control and the arrow keys, you can rotate all the pieces. Hit the center again. Like that. Now we'll attempt to align it. It appears to need to be slightly bigger. So select everything again, holding Shift. Yeah, just a tad. Let's take it back. Going to make sure my piece is centered again. I'm going to save again. Wait for my cursor to be red on this. F1. That appears to be right. So I'll take my center top slide. And one thing I want to check is the deep engraved portion, as it has the least amount of lines. Focus in on that. I also want to check this one because it shows the cut out for this. And as you can see, I'm moving these into center, but that doesn't mean the center is necessarily correct. If these squares are not lined up, then it is not centered. It's the whole point of those squares, is to make sure. So you want to get off to the corner. Just remember which one you're going to. That is lined up. Hit F1. Now I'm going to double check to make sure that it's not hitting the little circle on the back. And it is not. So the first thing that I want to engrave is the deep engraving portion. So the next steps in making this will be to set my settings in power. And with this, focus on it. Then aligning to the square. I just want to make sure that I'm as close as physically possible. This is within 0.01 millimeters, which is very minuscule, but accuracy and quality is my number one concern. I keep moving it whenever I release the mouse. I'm just making sure that I get this nice and level. So for my deep engraving, I hit hatch, and I want to use the blue, just a personal. The black I save for whatever I'm annealing or any kind of black that I want on my engraving. Blue is generally what I use for my deep paths. So I will do 0 angle. You want an offset of an auto rotate between hatches. I choose a non-prime number. Make sure it evenly rotates without repeating. If you put this at 0, you'll get lines through it. If you put it at 0 offset or crosshatch, you'll get crosses through it because it'll be regularly hitting it at the same angle. And over time, you will be able to see those. If you decide to go all the way through, you can run upwards of 150 plus 300 passes, and then you will start making your way all the way through the metal. Then it doesn't really matter, but it's always good habit to be consistent. And I do 27 personally. People will tell you different ways. Just make sure not to do a like 90, 180, 30, 45, any of those basic rotational numbers. The more odd the number, the more non-repeating that it does across the 360, the better. You won't get lines. I do mine spacing at 0.007 per deep. Enable, you want to make sure it's on what I call the snake hatch, the bidirectional. I won't do all count for this portion of it. Make sure all your other hatches are not on, unless you want multiple hatches going. But for this, I will do them individually. Once you can see your engraved area, your hatch has been named hatch. You can double click that, and I put top slide deep. And then we need to set that blue pen color. It is always on default. Turn that off. For my deep engraving, I have the 50 watt. I don't ever want my metal to get too hot, so making sure not to run it at full blast on a really slow setting, not to damage the weapon itself. I generally make my engraving take a bit longer, just to make sure that they don't heat up too much. So I will run mine at 80. I'll run my speed at about 1500, 1000, or 1500, and I'll pull my frequency down to 30. I'm not running a real tight hatch at 0.007. Once you get to like 0.005 and below, you're gonna have a really tight hatch. Always double check you're not hitting anything important. It may be hard to follow the laser, but if you look at all the important portions of the gun, you'll be able to see if it hits. So I'm looking to see if it's hitting the back circle, if it's getting inside the gun, especially on the back where the firing pin is, and then monitoring where it is in correlation to the front sight. It looks good, so I will stop that. And one thing I like to do personally is turn off the hatch, turn on the mark contour, and run just one quick flash of the contour. So now I can visibly see where it's going to be engraved. And that looks good. I'm going to turn my power down a little bit. Let's say 60. Just because that firing pin, I don't want it to heat up too much. And I don't want it to melt the vortex sight on there as well. So just keeping that in mind. It is a good bit away from that vortex sight. So I'll run it at 60. Sounds good. By the time it makes it from one spot to the next, it should go ahead and cool off. I'm going to go ahead and turn the vacuum on, and I'm going to turn it on one pass, and then we'll continue off. Alright, now that I see that, I'm going to do a different pass just to show. I usually do a nice green. On the green, I'll run a fast clean pass. Alright, that looks good to me. So I will run the first pass, apply, and I'm going to run this for about 50 passes. So I'll keep an eye on it, but I will probably go ahead and put a pin in this video. I'll keep filming so you can see, but I will probably turn the volume off. Just to pull you away and take a break from that while that's running, I'm going to pull this back over to the lab. I wanted to show you a few things I've been working on. I know templates can be time consuming. I do have the SIG series completed, as well as blocks with and without the finger groovers. I have the 1911. I have the modular scrolls. I have AR-15. I'm working on the Smith & Wesson as of now. So if these are things that you think you would like, you can head on over to ArcLight Labs. You can scroll down to my Patreon. Which is this. From here, give me a follow, and you can gain access to all of my files that I'll have available, including all the things that you've seen me work today, and much, much more to come. Also, feel free to join me on my Discord server, where you can follow up with what's going on. You can come chill, give me a voice chat. You can, if you have any questions, feel free to ask here in the general chat. You can come over here, check out a preview of the premium files, some of the files we have available, and much more to come for those who join the Patreon. But give me a like on Facebook. If you need help or anything, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help people. We'll be offering trainings coming up, and if anyone needs any help, we can get you on the book. If anyone wants to buy a laser, we can help you out. This has been the ArcLight method, so that may change later on. But for now, this is the way I know to do it, and we'll always have more and more coming through. My method's tried and true. I've made quite a bit of improvements, and I've learned all this myself. Totally willing to help others do the same. So definitely reach out if you have any questions. I'll go ahead and get this back over to the laser. Yeah, I'm just lasering. What? Oh, no, I haven't messed with it. If you really want, I can. I don't really have anywhere to sell stuff. Going to a gun show technically tomorrow, not today. Yeah.